Welcome back. We are continuing with our 1-point perspective drawing, so this is part 2. You've seen already how we established our vanishing point and our horizon line, and we've begun to draw just simple boxes that will eventually become buildings, and then we've established also the sidewalk on this both sides and a curb that runs along the bottom. So all we need to do is just draw a line right below, right here and right there, and then where there are the sidewalk lines, we just make that quick little line going down like this, and we've drawn our curve. And you know, not everything is like perfectly relative. This curve would probably be a lot smaller, but you get the idea of the principles that we're trying to teach. The next thing that I want to do is I do want to bring this to a kind of a next level as far as detail, and so today we're going to focus on finishing the drawing by adding windows, adding doors, adding maybe even some trees, or a median that runs down the middle of the road, cars, a background, additional buildings, so we can kind of bring this to a very complex drawing, but actually using very simple principles. So we're going to get started first off by just teaching the windows and doors and some basic principles associated with that. One thing that we need to do is to establish the center point of buildings, or be able to at least understand where the halfway point is on a building, to be able to place, you know, windows or doors or whatever we decide to do. And it's not difficult by any means. It's really easy. We don't have to do any math or anything like that to figure it out. All we need to do is draw an X. So let's just do this building right here, since it's just right here in the video and on the left-hand side here. So if I draw an X from here down to here, and from there down to there, so I have two crossing lines right there, that midpoint where it crosses is the middle of that building in perspective. Because if I just measure, right, and go from, you know, here's this here to here, and then I put in a line, it might be the middle in terms of my ruler right here, but because this is in perspective and it's going away from us, that would not be the middle. That would be pretty far off from the middle, because it's going away from us and things are getting smaller. So we have to take that into consideration. So this is a really simple way to find the middle of an object. So I'm just going to really lightly put in an X right here. You can just barely tell that I've drawn it, because I'm going to erase it. So, but if I go like this, you'll notice at this point right there, I can draw a line very lightly. You'll notice that that is my midpoint right here. So obviously there's more space here than there is here, because it's getting smaller. But now we know where the midpoint is, so we can kind of figure out if we wanted to draw a door, if we wanted to figure out, you know, evenly spaced windows going away, we can do that. And we can continue to do that in each box. So if I wanted to find the middle of this area right here, I would draw a line from there, and a line from there, and a line from here, and a line from here. And then I'd be able to find the midpoint of this section right here, and this section right here. So I'm just going to do that once with each building to be able to find kind of that midpoint, and then that will help us decide where to put our doors and windows and things like that. So I'm just going to go in here from corner to corner and draw my midpoint. Didn't draw that very well. There we go. And from there to there. And from there to there. Right here. Okay. Now we have the middle point on each of these. You can kind of draw a line going down to help us see that. So finding the midpoint. And this is a great exercise that if you want to use it to be able to find, like if we wanted to draw, let's say we were drawing a road in the countryside and there was a fence that ran down the side of the road. It'd be really easy to divide it up evenly if we were to stop it somewhere and be able to, create a long X and then break that down again and then break that down again and again and again. And it would be perfectly spaced. Every post going away from us would be perfectly spaced away in perspective. So you don't need to do any math, you just need to draw X's and you'll be able to find the midpoint of each box. Our next goal or whatever is to start putting in these windows and doors. So again, I'm going to start with this building right here. It's a nice tall building, and doors relatively, depending on the building, they vary. But for the most part, most doors are relatively the same size. They're, somewhere around 8-9 feet tall or whatever it is. And so, especially fronts of stores, they usually are a little bit bigger. So I'm going to just take my ruler and kind of decide where that point is going to be. And I'm just going to go right through the midpoint right here and bring a line down like this. And this will give me an idea of how tall to make my window or my doors. And then I can do the same thing over on this side. I can just come across like this, and I'll just go at the same angle. So I came like this right here, so I'm going to do the same thing over here, roughly the same right there, and I can always come across like this and find out, how tall, where this is, what this is at. So right there, and I'm just going to go like that, and now I have the height of the doors that I want to put on my buildings. Obviously you can vary it, but I'm just going to try and keep it simple and keep the doors relatively the same size, same height. And then once I do that, I can come in, and I know that my door is going to be pretty well centered in my building, and I can do like multiple doors. Some buildings have multiple entrances, but this is going to give me a good foundation for where to put doors. The next thing is going to be windows, and do a couple different kinds of buildings. One, if we wanted to do an apartment type building where there's multiple windows, they're all evenly spaced, they're going away at the same kind of direction, versus if we wanted to do like a skyscraper or a glass building where you only see kind of the framing or the outline of the windows, but it's all glass. We'll do one of those as well. So first one right here, I'm just going to do our typical building with the windows evenly spaced, square windows or whatever they are. So I'm going to first, because I want my windows to be kind of uniform and evenly spaced, I'm going to just go like this. I'm going to draw a line like this, come down a little bit, draw another line like this, come down a little bit, like this, down a little bit, and then continue down, kind of keeping them evenly spaced. All the way down to our door. And then when I'm done doing all of these lines, I will take this and I'll come down and I'll start creating my windows. Now I could leave it like that. This could be like a business building and I just have really big windows going up and along. Or I can break them up and then I'll just go in and draw another one. And then go back in and erase where I don't need any lines. And this can be really simple, or you can get very, very complex by putting in, say, you know, the indentation of the window going back in space. You can become really detailed with just the window, the type of window itself, all of those things. Right now, we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to start with our basic foundation of the windows. But that gives you kind of a good idea. We have, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 stories of large windows along the side. And now I know, because I've put this in right here, I could have started on this side of the building, or I could have started this side, either way. But now we know that I'm going to have windows that are going to be running along this strip right here. They're going to be running along this. If I go like this, they're going to be running along there, because I'm just going to bring this line all the way up to here, and now I know where those windows are going to run if I wanted to put them on the same level as the others. Right there. So that's going to run out to there, and this right here is going to run out to there. Like this, and like this. So now I know I'm going to have, you know, multiple windows, and I can put those windows in. So we'll just do 3 on this side like I did on the other side. Should be using my ruler, but too lazy to do it. Going in like this, and I'm just going to erase those lines that I don't need. I'm just helping. And then, you know, maybe this is a store, and, you know, and then there's apartment buildings above the store or something like that. So I could put in maybe some larger windows over there, or an entrance, or whatever it is. Maybe this is a larger window, actually, coming up like this. And it's the inside of a store. Okay, and then just erase all of our unnecessary lines, and good to go. Okay, we haven't done any details as far as the windows are concerned, although I would like to later on. Maybe I'll post another video going into detail as far as how to create this building and make it more refined. But that gives you an idea of how to create windows and doors on the building. The next thing that I want to do is to go a little bit more in depth and create depth within a building and show how you can make something look like it's going in. And this kind of follows the same idea right here, where I have one of the buildings that if you were walking down the street, right, you could turn into this little alleyway or this road, and it shows that it's going back in space. And I think to do this, it would be easier if I drew it a little bit larger, and then we'll do it smaller. So we have our vanishing point, right? And we have, let's just create a box. And the best way to describe this is to draw a clear box. So I'm going to draw a clear box that you can see through, and just it's, you know, like a glass box or something like that. So here's my, make this a little bit straighter. Here's my box, and right now it's just a building or a box in space. But I'm going to show you kind of how to create depth within a building, and I want you to be able to see it. So I'm going to do a clear box, and then we will kind of cut away at the box, like make a window or door or archway or whatever it is, where you can see what's going on inside. For instance, if you were looking in a window and you saw, you know, inside the window you saw the ceiling of a room or the floor of a room, or the, you know, the things that are going on inside. So first off, draw our box, boom, like this, like this. Right, here's our box. Now, this is going to come down to here from this point right here. And this corner is going to go to the vanishing point as well, like this. And if I draw from here and draw a straight line, and draw a straight line here at this corner of the building, you'll notice that we can see inside this box. Let's draw this right here, and right here. So it almost like falls right on that same line that I have right here, but just before it. And now you can see that I have the top, the bottom, this side, and then we have this side and then this side of our box. I'll do another one just to kind of reiterate, and I'll do it a little bit wider so it'll make a little bit more sense. Draw a box, and that's going the right way. Make sure that's going the right way. And then what I'll do is I'll draw a straight line from this corner and this corner. And now I have a box basically going from the vanishing point here make that a little more clear. So now I have this clear box. I've drawn all sides. This side right here, this side, this side, this side, and this side. And so I have this opening almost, or this clear box where I see all four sides. Understanding this, right, and all I've done is just drawn this side and this side to the vanishing point, this side to the vanishing point, and this side to the vanishing point, and then I'd have two flat sides that are facing us. Understanding this, if I were to say put in, if these walls, if you couldn't see through them, but I were to put a big door here, right, you were looking through, and maybe I'll make that a little bit taller. Let's make it like up to here. If I had a door here, I would be able to see into, I'll erase this so that pretend like we can't see through it. I would be able to see into this room or into this building, and I would see where the carpet or where the floor ended, because that right there is my wall, right here. So as I were to walk in like this and go into that room, this is where the space is that's inside right here. But we don't see the rest of it because I'm going to erase this and I'll erase this. And now what we have is in an interior of a building, and we can see going into that interior, going into the building by some entrance, and we can see what's going on inside, or at least have a little bit of a view of inside. So that's the principle of understanding how to do that. So if I were to take, let's say, one of these buildings, let's just pretend it's this one right here. If I very lightly sketch the inside of this, right? If this were to come in like this, I would know that even before I have to do anything else, I would know that the inside right here, that's the back wall right here, and this is the floor inside that building. So I'd be able to see into there. And you can do this with, let's say you wanted to make like a parking garage, and you have, you know, a door going into, or a space for cars to go into, and you wanted to be able to show the street or the road that kind of turns into and goes into a building. It's the same principle. You have to think about, okay, where would my wall be, or how far back do I want that wall to be, and then you just create your little, you know, cross section or cut into the object. But always going back to this idea of the clear box, and thinking about that, right? Because if I put a door right here, right? If I set this in, okay, and you were able to see in there, you'd see the back wall, or at least a little bit of the back wall, or you'd see this floor right here. If I put the door right here, right, you'd be able to see a little bit of the carpet or a little bit of the floor. You'd be able to see that. If I had, you know, this going all the way to the top, like this, you know, this door was really big, or this was just a big hangar or something like that, where you kept airplanes and stuff, you would see the ceiling, right? Because this would come across like this, and so we would see the ceiling, we'd see the floor, and then we'd see this big wall on the side here. So that's how we kind of cut into a building and understand what to do with it. So I've done one right here. I think I'm just going to leave that one because they're rather small. Maybe I'll do another one later. But the next thing we want to do is create well, let's just do some objects in space, and then we'll move on. And we'll start out with trees. So I'm going to do a median down the middle of this road. I've got this big road here, and I don't want it to be a 4-lane or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6-lane highway. I'd rather it be, you know, 2 lanes going down and then have kind of a median in the middle. So I'm just going to go like this, kind of split it down the middle, and then in the middle I'll place some trees or something like that. So first off, what I want to do is I'm going to create a circle. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect circle. I don't want it to be a perfect circle. But this is going to help me understand how to create, you know, spaced trees going down away from me. So I'm going to draw kind of a circle, and then I will do the trunk of the tree right here. And then I'm going to do an ellipse, but first I want to start out with a square, or kind of a rectangle. So I have this, and I have this. Very basic, right? It's kind of this oval shape, a really, really skinny rectangle, and then this rectangle here. As these go back into space, they're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. But we don't have to guess, because trees, again, if it's the same kind of tree and it's planted evenly apart, they're all going to be relatively the same size. So I can take this measurement from right here and go back like this. I can take this measurement like this and go back from here to the vanishing point. And now I know that all of my trees are going to fit within this space, right? This line to this line to this line to this line, all the way going out and beyond, right? If I wanted to draw another tree in front, I'd know how big to make it because it would hit here and here. The same thing can be said for if I want to draw people. So, and I'm just going to start with some some trees here. So I'm going to space this out. And I could do X's, I could take this and draw a big X and then split, but I'm just going to kind of guess and just draw a few trees going back in space. But I could be really technical, and I could X out this and then split it up evenly so I knew where they were. But I'm just going to kind of just guess as I look at this and kind of just put a few in front of one another. So there's one right there, put another right there, put another right there, and right there. And I can go back in and I can refine those trees and make them look like actual trees instead of just big ovals. And we don't see them because they're in the way, but I could, pretend that I could see this. What I did the rectangle for is if I wanted to make this kind of an ellipse, right? Now I have kind of this little area, this little pot, that the little enclosure where the dirt and everything is. So in any case, it works really well. Okay, people follow the same principle. I'm going to take just a spot here and pretend like if a person is walking into this store, let's say that they're about, and think about the stories, right? Think about if you were to put a person in here, how big would they be? If this is my story right here, let's say this is a row of apartment buildings, or if someone's walking around in here, they'd probably be about that tall. So if they're going into a store and they're only about that tall, be thinking about that just in terms of relatives. But let's just draw, I'm going to draw a person, and I'm just going to draw a circle for the head, and then just a little diamond shape, or not diamond shape, more of like a triangle going like this. I can make people going back and forth up in this up and down this sidewalk, understanding that most people are about the same size. And so if I take this head, the top of the head, and I go back to the vanishing point, and then I take the feet, let's say this person's feet's about right there, and go back to the vanishing point, I now know that my people are going to be about that height, and I can be really specific and take a measurement from the head, the bottom of the head, and the top of the head. So if I had a bunch of people walking in line, I would know to make people going back and forth like that. It's really, really simple, right? I haven't done anything complicated, right? I've just drawn a circle with a triangle shape, or a skinny triangle shape, and I can continue to do that going forward. Right, and I can be more specific, but then you can do variety. Like if this is a person, then maybe there's like a child that's right next to him, or maybe there's someone else that's walking over here, and they'd be about the same size, and I can vary it going forward, right? And then I can be more specific about okay, maybe I can put them in more of a stance or whatever it is as I walk them off. But if this were a really busy street, this is like New York or somewhere, or some busy city, and you have a bunch of people walking back and forth, right? Then it becomes much more simple. The last thing that I want to do is I want to embellish, or I want to create this a really busy city. So I'm going to just add more buildings. The same principles apply, and because they're in the background, I don't need to worry about necessarily the bottom of the building. I just want to create the tops, excuse me, the tops of the building, not the bottom. So like this space here, but I do want to break it up, so I'm going to draw another line up here and put another building coming towards us. And I like this space here, but not enough to just kind of leave it open right here, so I'm going to draw another building right here. And nice and close. And then I'll end up having to erase this because we wouldn't see that part of the building. We've covered it up with this other building. And then I can erase the horizon line where I don't need it, right? I still have it, right? But eventually the vanishing point and the horizon line will kind of get covered up because I'm going to start putting in tons of buildings. So I will go in, I can, create a tree that's got branches, and I don't want this to just be a circle. I want it to have some character, so I'll just kind of give it some jagged edges like this. So you can see these trees and nice skinny trunk going back like this. And then the median, I kind of want to set that up so it looks a little more uniform, and then I can draw crosswalks and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, this gives you an idea of how to start embellishing your drawing. We've gone over windows, we've gone over doors, we've gone over how to find the center point. We can cut into a building and be able to look inside, whether that's through a window or through an opening, a door of some sort. And then we've gone over how to create multiple objects in space as they recede back and they go back in space. We've done the trees, sidewalks, a good example, and then we did just basic shapes for people. All right, that's it. Enjoy.